$1 million Bitcoin, Samson. When's that going to happen?
My guess is it's going to be this year.
It's going to be this year.
You look at all the factors that we're facing. You have
That's a 10x.
Bitcoin has 17x in the past. There is no upper bound to Bitcoin. So there are people that talk about diminishing returns, right? But if it's a step change, just like the failure of the German mark, it's not a gradual thing and there's no upper bound. It's just gone. And you use a new thing now, right? It's like, yeah, we don't use horses for transportation anymore. You know, we came here on a car or on airplanes and whatnot. So we use a new thing. And Bitcoin is that new thing because it's 100, if not 1,000 times better than anything else we've used as money in human history.
You heard it right. Forget the fear, the crashes, and the weak hands selling at the bottom. Bitcoin is not dying. It's preparing for a once-in-a-lifetime explosion that will leave even the most optimistic investors in shock. According to Samson Mow, the man who predicted Bitcoin's inevitable march to six figures, the real fireworks are just beginning. In a bombshell statement, Mow predicts that Bitcoin is gearing up for a parabolic rise to $1 million this year. On January 3rd, he tweeted that Bitcoin is oversold and urged the market to rebound. Since then, Bitcoin has continued to decline and is currently trading below $90,000, the lowest price level since mid-November 2024. Experts point to factors like import tariffs imposed by President Trump on Canada and Mexico, set to take effect on March 4th, as contributors to the crash. Additionally, the market has seen massive liquidations and significant outflows from Bitcoin spot ETF. However, many in the comments believe that these lower prices present an opportunity for the community to buy Bitcoin at a discount. Mow suggests that Bitcoin's drop was inevitable due to the overheated altcoin market. As Bitcoin dominance surges, capital that had been tied up in altcoins must return before Bitcoin can rebound. With growing institutional demand, Mow argues that Bitcoin remains undervalued.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
So I've been predicting 1 million for a while, and hopefully I'll hit sometime. But I believe this pullback is very normal because the altcoin market was overheated. If you look at XRP, Ripple, it was $3. That's ridiculous. With Bitcoin at 97 or so, Ripple is still at 260. And then you have Solana and everything. Everything is overpriced right now for the altcoins. So I think it's normal. We come down, they shake off, and then we go back up. Bitcoin dominance increases again. But Bitcoin dominance is really intellect measurement, like how much money is being allocated to altcoins. And that needs to drop before we can take off again, I believe. But overall, Bitcoin is undervalued. And I think even at 100K, 150, 200, it's still undervalued.
And what's the case for it being undervalued?
Well, there's just so much demand for Bitcoin right now from MicroStrategy, from the ETFs, from nation states, from ordinary people buying and hodling, that I don't think people have fully realized that most of the year's supply of mined Bitcoin is already gone a few times over. So you have to understand there is ultimate scarcity in Bitcoin. And I believe the understanding of ultimate scarcity is very far away still. People just can't wrap their heads around there only being 21 million. And when the price drops, people kind of feel confident that I can get it later. But then Bitcoin rips and then there is no later. Like imagine being able to buy Bitcoin at $10,000 a coin again. It's not possible. And this milestone of 100,000 will be gone again in time.
Why is the price still at $97,000 if we have all this massive purchasing going on? Is it like a flush?
So there's two things I would say. One is there are obviously OGs or old hodlers that are going to sell something and, you know, buy a house, maybe enjoy life a bit. So there will always be some coins that are sold outside of the mined supply. But there's also roughly 2 million coins that sit on exchange for market making, trading, and arbitrage. And those 2 million coins, it's dropping obviously. Now it was at more than 2 million before, but now it's at, you know, around 2 million. But that is enough for the coins to drop the market. And a lot of it has to do with Bitcoin being a 24/7 market as well. So this drop, I believe, is related to the tariff war. You know, American, Canadian, Mexican, well, we're all going to tariff each other. And it's just panic. So Bitcoin being the only 24/7 liquid market is the only thing that can react immediately. So it sort of like the market sentiment is taken out on Bitcoin. We're the first to move, the most volatile and the biggest move, and then the equities markets and everything else follows after that when the markets open. Such an antiquated concept, right? But that's what it is. But going back to the point, those 2 million coins is enough to move the market a little bit. And the impact of those 2 million coins, I believe, is becoming less and less pronounced as we increase hodlers. So if you break down the scheme of who impacts Bitcoin price, you have the hodlers, zero impact. They're just sitting on the coins. And in ways you can look at it, they're coiling up that spring. Then you have the buyers, the people that are DCAing either like by day or by month, or you can say MicroStrategy is also in the DCA category, and hodling, but they're actively in acquisition mode and Metaplanet. And like you said, then you have the traders, which is kind of that 2 million coins. So that is kind of what is driving the market. And Bitcoin will always be volatile because you have that slush fund of coins on exchanges, but that is going to be drained over time. And we do see that. And it makes it more pronounced, the coil up effect from the DCAers and the hodlers. Now we see the tariffs, and that's another interesting can of worms. But at least you can see that the tariffs are going to be great for Bitcoin. I think near term, people that are affected by the tariffs, they probably can't see it. Or if they're not into Bitcoin, they may not be thinking about this, but it's going to drive a lot of people to look at Bitcoin and protect themselves.
Okay. And the thing that interested me in also is you said Operation Choke Point 3.0. And we just went through Operation Choke Point 2.0. And a lot of the things that they were doing, they were trying to obfuscate it. They weren't being transparent about it. Do you believe that it was a malicious attack on Bitcoin and the Bitcoin industry to at least slow down the adoption of it in the United States?
Definitely. It was a kind of covert operation to throttle Bitcoin and crypto adoption. And it's really just to protect the existing system, right? Protect the Fed, protect the dollar in a certain way, protect the banking system in a certain way, and all the incumbents, right? And you see that with, closure of some of the banks for absolutely no reason. I think Signature, right? It was just closed for no reason whatsoever. And if you guys had elected Kamala, you would have, 3.0, another version of Choke Point. And without the new checks and balances that Department of Government Efficiency is trying to introduce.
It sucks that he named it after Doge.
Yeah, take the good with the bad.
It was a massive troll. What do you think about Ross being freed?
I think that's the most important thing. So I had a wish list for Trump. I had some predictions and a wish list. I think if he just frees Ross and stops attacking Bitcoin, like stops the attack on Bitcoin hodling, I think that's enough. A strategic Bitcoin reserve, it's good for the government. It doesn't really do much for the people, except for a mass education program for the people. Like, okay, the government has it, now I should have it. But outside of that, it doesn't really do anything for your average person in the US. Paying off the debt would be beneficial for US individuals, but
If they used it for that.
yes, if they use it, but you don't know what they will use
That's
it
a
for.
big if.
And you don't know what the composition will be yet either because it's not a strategic Bitcoin reserve now, it's a digital asset reserve, which is broad and diverse and inclusive, but we don't know yet what's going to be in there. And hopefully it'll be just Bitcoin, but there are obviously altcoin projects lobbying to be included, like Ripple.
Bitcoin isn't just disrupting the financial system, it's consuming it entirely. While every fiat currency crumbles under inflation, Bitcoin, forged in digital scarcity, is becoming stronger, harder, and unstoppable. The idea of diminishing returns? A complete myth. According to Mow, Bitcoin's adoption follows a path similar to the rise of the internet and smartphones, slow at first, but then it explodes like a runaway train that no one can stop. The dominoes are already falling. Countries, institutions, and billionaires are hoarding Bitcoin while the rest of the world remains distracted. By the time the masses wake up, the door will be slammed shut. Bitcoin is on the brink of detonating, and if you're not in now, you might never afford it again. Mow doesn't just see Bitcoin reaching $100,000 or $200,000. He calls that cheap. Most people still don't understand its true scarcity. Only 21 million coins exist, and the supply that trickles in each year is already spoken for multiple times over. This isn't speculation, it's inevitability. Let's watch more clips from the interview.
What's really interesting about El Salvador is how much it's been focused solely on Bitcoin. It's like it's resisted that. How come?
I think President Bukele is a Bitcoiner. Trump is not a Bitcoiner. He spoke at, Nashville conference, but he's not a Bitcoiner. He's done a lot of other crypto related projects. And I don't think he fully understands Bitcoin. And you can kind of pick that level of understanding out from his speech. If you compare his speech to RFK's speech, it's a world of difference. So he's more crypto, right? And that's probably why the US is not as Bitcoin maximalist as El Salvador is. So we'll see how things go over time. But there are a lot of lobbying groups in the US, obviously, too, exchanges that are trying to push them towards, crypto. And if it diversifies the reserve, that's probably why. So the Bitcoin law has been softened, or you can say neutered a bit. They've amended it to comply with the IMF agreement, almost to the letter. So everything they said in the IMF agreement, they've amended it. But I think the key thing is the amendments leave the door kind of open. It's ambiguous. So there is still a Bitcoin law, but Bitcoin is no longer a currency. And it is legal tender, but it is now voluntary. So what does that mean exactly? It means Bitcoin is legal tender. There's no capital gains tax still.
Okay.
There's another line in there that says you can use Bitcoin. The government can't now. So there is this Bitcoin law. Bitcoin is legal tender. But what is a legal tender without enforcement? Not that there was before. It always has been voluntary. So you can look at it both ways. Like some people are reacting very strongly and saying, they capitulated, they bent the knee to the IMF and, because they sold us out. And they're very disillusioned. And then you have the promoters of El Salvador and Bukele, and they're saying, yeah, we won. We're going to take the money and buy Bitcoin with IMF money. But I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. There was a compromise. There was adaptation. The law itself is weakened, but Bitcoin still has a standing here in El Salvador. So you take the good with the bad. And I think it makes sense in the long run. Bukele is not the president of Bitcoin. He's the president of El Salvador. I mean, he has to do what he thinks is the right thing for this country. And if he thinks the right thing for the country is to secure the IMF loan, which will lead to other loans. So the reason why people are seeking Tether and stablecoins is because they need access to that system. They don't yet understand Bitcoin, but they do want the dollar to hedge, right? So if you're a merchant and you're selling stuff and your suppliers want dollars or Argentinian pesos and you have Bitcoin, there is volatility in Bitcoin both ways. And we can't ignore the fact that, some guy taking Bitcoin can lose a significant amount of money just by taking Bitcoin and not hedging, because that's not their savings. It's not yet really savings as long as there is volatility. It's savings for people that can weather volatility. People that can't, they need a stable unit. And Bitcoins like to say, well, stable coins are not stable because the fiat money is devaluing, but compared to the Argentinian peso, the dollar is gold, right? Or compared to the bolivar, it's gold. And I think we just have to ignore people that criticize that and focus on onboarding these 400 million people to liquid Tether and Bitcoin.
You said that Jan 3 focuses on hyperbitcoinization. What is that?
Hyperbitcoinization is the point at which we no longer convert Bitcoin into fiat. There's only Bitcoin left. So it's the end state, really. And you could say it's hyperinflation of the dollar, really. Right? When a dollar hyperinflates, then no one's going to want the dollar. They will just want Bitcoin. So yeah, it's the greatest demonetization event in human history. Basically, all fiat will die all at the same time, very rapidly. And everyone just wants Bitcoin and transacts in Bitcoin.
Really? It's just, so you don't see a world where the dollar and Bitcoin can coexist?
I don't see it, but a lot of Bitcoiners do see it. I think Saylor is one of those. Like, if you look at his Bitcoin 24 model, right? He actually tapers off the model after a number of years to kind of slow the death of Bitcoin, slow the death of fiat. So Bitcoin growth tapers off. But I think monetary systems, especially when you're dealing with 100x improvement over the old system, and even over gold, it's not a gradual taper. It's just a flip of the switch. Everyone's just going to switch to this new thing. I don't see that happening in Bitcoin. And we didn't even see that happen with the devaluation of the German mark. It wasn't that it slowly tapered off. And there was one baker in this village over there that was still taking the mark, 5 years later, because, that network effect of that money dies. So maybe some people have it in a drawer, but no one's actually going to exchange anything for the mark.
And I mean, that's going to be a pretty big impact on the world, right?
That's why we're working on getting Bitcoin adoption out there as fast as we can to soften the fall.
Okay.
It's like the Foundation series, right?
Yeah.
You can't stop the fall, but we can soften the fall.
The market is on shaky ground, and Bitcoin's recent dip has pushed a significant portion of investors into the red, marking the highest losses we've seen in months. According to Into the Block, this shift signals a critical moment as more holders find themselves underwater, hinting at growing uncertainty in the market. With Bitcoin now below $90,000, there's little buying support, meaning if the price continues to drop, it could plummet quickly. However, there's an upside. Above $95,000, selling pressure vanishes, potentially triggering a rapid short squeeze to the upside. Samson Mow commented on the growing interest in Bitcoin, highlighting El Salvador's emphasis on Bitcoin, contrasting it with Trump's lack of understanding of the cryptocurrency. Following the IMF agreement, El Salvador's Bitcoin law has been relaxed, making Bitcoin optional rather than legal tender, but still maintaining its zero capital gains tax. Mow believes Bitcoin still has a place in El Salvador, and the changes leave the door open for future growth. He suggests that President Bukele made concessions to secure additional IMF loans, while the people in countries with high inflation are increasingly turning to stablecoins to protect their wealth. Meanwhile, CoinGlass data reveals that Bitcoin traders suffered massive losses, with over $746 million in liquidations over the past day. Factors such as Libra and Melania developments, along with the $1.4 billion Bybit breach, contributed to the market's decline. The broader cryptocurrency market, especially altcoins, has struggled recently, with many suffering losses of 14% to 87%. After dipping below $90,000, Bitcoin found some stability above $86,000, while meme coins like Trump Dogecoin and Shiba Inu saw a slight rise. What do you think? Will Mow's prediction of hyperbitcoinization come true, and how could it impact the global economy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For more Daily Dose Crypto News, check out these two awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.